Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Hey, every week we come to you with executive travel located in Lincoln, Nebraska. Visit us on the web, executivetravel.com, or you can also even call us. Paul, have you noticed how many websites you can't even call people?
I know that's a pet peeve for you.
It's my pet peeve.
When you trying to pick up the phone and call somebody and you can't find a phone number.
I know, 402-435-8888. We'd love to hear from you. Hey, this week, big news, and I'm going to go lickety-split through these. First off, the first headline reads, Avoid Air Canada with a 10-foot pole this week, Paul. The flight attendants decided to strike over the weekend, and the government says, no, go back to work. And the flight attendants said, we're not going to go back to work. So Air Canada is really struggling, and obviously we don't want anybody to be booking Air Canada probably for the next couple weeks.
It could be a while, yeah. And it's a big number. It's like 10,000 flight attendants that walked off.
Yeah, and I think several hundred flights even to the U.S.
Uh-huh.
And I know I've used them to use my frequent flyer miles to go to Europe a lot, but I don't travel within Canada much. Mm-hmm. So I'm worried a little bit more about not Air Canada, but people that fly in the Star Alliance that use Air Canada. Could be impacted. And, of course, that messes up everything. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, stay away from Air Canada this week. It's a mess, and we want to have it so you don't have any problems. The other thing, Paul, it's August, busy, one of the busiest weeks of the year for travel, with summer travel just about to end, and so you're going to have that waterfall effect.
Planes are full. So when something does go awry, then it can take days to get back on track.
Well, speaking of that leads to headline number 2, real-life travel nightmare, canceled flights, lost days, and a $1,700 bill. Paul, this last Saturday, we had a group going to Ireland. Well, guess what? It's a busy season in Ireland right now.
Thunderstorms.
And thunderstorms hit. They were going Des Moines, Chicago, Dublin. Thunderstorms hit, 20 people. They canceled the flight. Canceled the flight on Saturday.
And that's the flight to Dublin?
To Dublin.
So that's a shocker that they would actually cancel a flight going instead of just postponing it.
They had a ground stop in Chicago, so they couldn't get their flight from Des Moines to Chicago.
Okay.
It wouldn't go, and then it got so late they had to cancel it, and then the Chicago flight took off probably without them, or the Dublin flight. So then here you are. You're planning a vacation. You spent $5,000-$6,000 for this beautiful vacation. And this is the one time that I say, people, you always have to purchase travel insurance.
If you're leaving the 48 states.
Oh, my goodness sakes. So half of them had insurance, half of them didn't. We had some great agent work. Lizette and Ann worked through the night. They didn't even sleep. They found a flight out of Minneapolis going through London for the next day that people could do. But the one-way fare was like $1,700. So very expensive. Those that have insurance, that should cover it. Now, I'm not going to speak for the insurance company, but generally speaking, they cover that kind of coverage. And they're hopefully going to be able to get to Dublin, and they've gotten there and enjoy that trip of a lifetime for many of them. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, the point I'm trying to make is if you're going overseas, internationally, you've got an investment of $5,000, $70,000. You need to spend some money, probably 10% of that on travel insurance, depending on your age. And so whatever happens, you're covered. And that leads us to number 3. The number one reason to buy travel insurance is your health. And we see that all the time. Of course, we deal with a lot of baby boomer travelers, and they can book a trip 6 months early. And guess what happens in 6 months?
A lot of things can happen in a 6-month period when you're 60 years old.
Yeah. So what we see is also Medicare doesn't cover internationally.
And I think that's one thing people don't understand is most of your insurance that you would have, so it doesn't matter your age. Once you leave the States, you don't have coverage.
You don't have coverage.
If you're in an accident, so it's not necessarily your general health. It could be an accident. It could be all kinds of things. And it goes back to a couple of years ago where when COVID was the big deal, a lot of countries actually required proof of insurance in case you ended up coming down with something while you were there to make sure your medical bills would be paid.
Speaking of Dublin, everything is on the wrong side of the road over there.
Mm-hmm.
They drive on the left. And so when you get to Dublin, when you're stepping off a curb in the U.S., you tend to look left,
mm-hmm.
right? In Dublin, you got to look right. So you're so confused. It's easy to have, especially people are on their cell phones,
mm-hmm.
and they step off the curb, they're looking left, and from the right comes the car. Oh, I've seen accidents happen like that. It's scary, scary, scary. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, you might call this the travel insurance week, but this one big group to Dublin just reminded me the importance of travel insurance. The fourth headline reads, "Don't miss the boat. Arrive a day early to your cruise." This is another thing, Paul. I was sitting in Rome at the Marriott Park Hotel. You know it well.
I know it well, yes.
I've been there many times. This lady comes up to check in. She was distraught. And I go, "What's going on?" And she says, "I missed my cruise." I said, "Oh, no. When did you arrive?"
Mm-hmm.
"I just arrived today. The cruise left. My flight was canceled the day before." And she was arriving the same day of the cruise departure. Ladies and gentlemen, never, never, never do that. You always arrive the day before.
You never know when something's going to go awry. That canceled flight, same thing as what happened to the group going to Ireland. There's just so many things that can happen, and the ship's not going to wait for you.
Not going to wait for you. And she was out 2 days. She had to wait 2 days to fly down and catch it at the first port that it stopped in.
I know when we were in Alaska 2 weeks ago, there were the second port we were in, there was a guy that was catching up because he arrived with all of his bags and things. So I think it's more common for people to push it and try to get in that day, and then all it takes is a couple hours of a delay, and all of a sudden you're missing out on days of your experience.
We actually, when we were going to that Alaska cruise, we were flying through Denver,
mm-hmm.
and our flight was delayed by 5 hours out of Omaha. We missed our connecting flight into Vancouver, so we had to overnight in Denver.
You ended up flying in the day of, even though you were trying to fly in the day before because of the issue. So perfect example of why.
Perfect example. And another reason, if you buy travel insurance and miss the cruise, guess what? They'll reimburse you for those days that you missed, as well as the flights to get
you caught up.
So there's 3 good reasons, ladies and gentlemen, that you should consider travel insurance. Now, here's the next thing. It's kind of a badge of honor, Paul. Tell them about the Inc. 5000.
Yeah, we're blessed to have one of the most amazing teams in travel, and as such, we're able to focus on positive things and progress. And as that in 2024, we actually had some good growth, and we're named as being one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America, one of the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies. So,
and I didn't see any travel management companies on the list.
Really?
Aside for us.
Well, a lot of them aren't private anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you look at all the tech stuff that's coming in, there's a lot of VC stuff. And so I think that's one of the differentiators is, private companies are becoming fewer and farther between.
Fewer and farther between. Ladies and gentlemen, if you check our website, we've got some cool tours. We have a division called Women of the Midwest. It's all women travelers. They feel safe and secure traveling with a small group of women all around the world. And we've got a whole list of tours that they can look at, especially for this fall. And they're getting into the Christmas tours, Paul, some of my favorite. Have you done the Christmas tours in Europe?
I've done Munich a couple times, and I think we went up to Salzburg in Austria, and then I had to rush back from Salzburg, so I didn't get to explore that one as much. But it's incomprehensible to be in those areas during the Christmas season. Even in Italy, Italy's big with that as well. So it's a blast actually. And they were talking about. Paulie was here a couple weeks back. They're already looking at their 2027 programs and starting to build those out. So they're filling those all up, and so they're starting to look out a lot farther. So get on there, make sure you don't miss out, because a lot of times they'll lay something out and it disappears before you even know it's out.
A lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn. Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.